I call the PWC meeting to order on February 4th, 2026 at 7:33 p.m. Before we move on, I want to take a moment to recognize the incredible work our Public Works team did during the recent snowstorm. On behalf of the Board of Commissioners and our entire community, thank you for the sacrifices you made, the long hours you put in, and the care you showed for this township during one of the worst snowstorms Pennsylvania has seen in decades,
Right.
followed by days of freezing conditions. For that, we are truly grateful. It is my understanding that the Public Works not only endured more than 8 inches of snow and ice, but that some staff worked over 36 hours across 2 days through dangerous conditions and exhausting shifts to keep our roads passable, our residents safe, and our township moving. In fact, some staff didn't even go home, but Bo took good care of them and fed them well. I don't know how much that's going to cost us, but it's my understanding he fed them well. So this was not a routine event. Every unit within Public Works played a role: plowing, salting, responding to issues, and problem solving in real time under intense pressure. Teamwork makes the dream work. Your dedication, professionalism, and commitment to public safety represent public service at its very best. In that spirit, Public Works rocks. Rock salt helps, but in snowstorms, Cheltenham runs on Public Works. Thank you. Okay. First item of business on the agenda is item number 1, receipt of monthly reports and citizens committee meeting minutes. 1A, January 2026. I move to accept January 2026 Highway Department report. Mr. President?
Does anyone have any comments or questions on the motion to accept the Highway Department report on the board? How about in the public? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. 1B, I move to accept December 2025 Refuse and Recycling Department report, which is attached. Mr. President?
Comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, anything from the public? Okay. All those in favor of the motion to accept the December 2025 Refuse and Recycling Department report say aye.
Aye.
Okay, no report for the Maintenance Department, 1C, so I'll move to 1D. I move to accept January 2026 Street and Traffic Light Superintendent report. Mr. President?
So I was going to ask for questions, but I see that Commissioner Stein has one. So please, Commissioner Stein.
Well, I was just wondering if Mr. Stucker has an idea at all of what might happen to that time frame for the completion of Glenside and Rice's Mill and Harrison and Limekiln because of the weather.
I don't have a definitive time, but they have been pushed back because of the weather, because of the cold and the snow and the ice buildup. I do know that the contractor will be back next week to continue work at Tookenny New Second, because some more parts have come in for that. So once they'll get done there, and then they'll continue to work on the other projects that have started. So a big part of that right now is concrete pour at that location, and we can't pour concrete when it's this cold anyway.
And I have just one more quick question for Mr. Stucker. I see that there were 2 grants not awarded for Greenlight Go. Do we have any idea why? Was it just very competitive, or was there something more they wanted from us?
The one at Limekiln and Waverly, they just stated that it did not score as high this go round. We've discussed that, and we will probably resubmit that for next time in hopes that it will score a little higher, looking at different areas. And the one at New Second in Coventry, that's because that's a more complicated project, and they were requiring us to put a pedestrian connection from the intersection corner to the path on the other side of the creek. We cannot do that along the roadway. It's just where their pipe is and everything. So we're going to have to build a pedestrian bridge. And their reasoning for that was that they felt that DEP would hold up that entire project for permitting. So they suggested that we try to get that done and then reapply. So we are looking into that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Sucker. Thanks, Commissioner Stein. Commissioner Norris.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joe, you mentioned Tookenny and New Second. You said the equipment is coming. Does that mean they'll be finishing it up, or is there more after this?
So the last mast arm has arrived, so they'll get that installed and then continue installing the rest of the signals that they haven't yet installed. And then that has to go into a test cycle. We all have, myself, PennDOT, and the contractor have to be out there for that. And then after the test cycle, it'll go into normal operation anywhere from a week to 10 days later. So, I mean, we're still, I don't want to say we'll definitely be up and running fully by the end of the month, but we are getting closer to that.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the board? How about from the public on the street and traffic light superintendent report? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of Commissioner Lewis's motion to accept the January 2026 street and traffic light superintendent's report, say aye.
Aye.
All
Hi.
right,
Thanks, Mr. President. 1E, I move to accept the January 2026 Fleet Superintendent report, which is attached. Mr. President?
Yes, sir. Any comments or questions on the motion? How about from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the fleet superintendent report for January 2026, say aye.
all
Aye.
right,
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. President. 1F, I move to accept the January 2026 Stormwater Coordinator report, which also is attached. Mr. President?
Sure. Anything anyone wants to add before we open it up for questions? I should have done that earlier. Okay. Seeing none, are there any questions on the motion? Commissioner Stein?
I just had a question about, it says that we've completed the purchase of the 3 properties for Glenside flood control. But when I went past the open parking lot today at Rice's Mill and Glenside, it's still full of commercial vehicles. So can somebody know what's happening with that?
Mr. Diazio?
Yes, Commissioner Stein, I'm taking care of that. It is, I'll be sending a communication today or tomorrow to the former property owner to remove those items. And if they're not removed, we'll take it to the next level. But we're going to give them a few days to remove them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Stein. That's an excellent question. Something I raised as well earlier in the week. Commissioner Cherico?
And we know that those are in fact owned by the former landlord.
I don't know. We know who they're owned by, but they're certainly not owned by us. So they got to go.
So is there any value to us renting, leasing that space out now that since nothing is happening there? Is there any money that we could receive from renting or leasing those lots until work begins?
I think we'd have to look at the way that the property is zoned. We'd also have to look at adding different types of insurance to the properties. Right now, the properties are just insured with a very basic amount of insurance on there in the event that someone were to fall on the property. If we were going to start to have other activity on that property, we would probably need additional and different kinds of insurance. It's something we could certainly look into. And I will talk to the manager about talking to our broker to see just what the costs would be there.
I mean, if in fact that is being used by other businesses that find value in parking there, and we're able to make some money off of it, great. If not, I don't want to waste our time doing something that wouldn't turn a profit.
Understood.
We also have to be a little careful about the way we, whether we want to get into the landlord business, but
Right.
certainly something to discuss. And any other
I
comments or
have a
questions?
question.
Yeah,
So
Commissioner.
if in fact these cars belong to the previous owner, we get those cars off, what measures will we take to prevent other cars from using that property? What measures would we take?
Well, I think moving forward, once the current vehicles and storage containers, if there are any there, are cleared, I think if there were vehicles on that property, we would be able to tow them, right? That's our property. They could be cited for not being able to park there and then subject to tow. That would be likely the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, that would be great.
We can
I want to sign up.
you can also rope off the
Mhm.
parking lot if you need to, or chain it off. That would be something we could look into as well.
Yeah, I would do both or consider both.
Yeah, so there should be existing posts there for chains because the property did used to be chained off.
Yep.
Okay.
Great. Okay. And any other comments or questions? The hope is that it's not just an empty parking lot for much longer. Now that we have acquired the property, I suppose Ms. Elliott and Ms. Brinker, that we should probably, re-engage with DEP. And not re-engage is not the right term, but liaise again with DEP to ensure that project, now that we've done this initial piece, can start moving forward in a more robust manner.
Yes, so we do reach out to them every 3 months, and that's why it was in the report this month. They are working on updating some of the plans, and then they're gonna share them with the township for review.
Great. All right. Any comments or questions from the public on the Stormwater Coordinator's report for January 2026? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of Commissioner Lewis's motion to accept the report, say aye.
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 Thank you, Mr. President. 1G, there was no January meeting for the shade tree. So we'll move to 1H. I move to accept the Environmental Advisory Council report for January 12, 2026, which is attached. Mr. President?
Comments or questions from the board or staff? All right, seeing none, how about from the public? All right, all those in favor of the motion to accept the Environmental Advisory Council's January 12th, 2026 meeting minutes, say aye.
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 Back to you, Commissioner Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll move to agenda item number 2, old business. It's my understanding that Aqua is here today to give us an update on the sewer system, which I hope will include something about the sewer capacity and EDUs. But I'll turn it over to Henry. Are you here? Is Henry here?
Yes, Henry's here.
Henry's here. You want to tee up Aqua's presentation, Henry, please?
I don't really have much to say except that
Okay.
Aqua has obliged to provide us an update on the status of sewer capacity and some of the improvements they've been doing, and hopefully some of those improvements will amount to additional EDUs being released by DEP. I'll turn it over to Mr. Fred Galloff.
Yep, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, great. I'll take a second here. If I could, if the host could enable screen sharing for me.
Yes, I am trying to make that work for you. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm in the wrong computer. Sorry.
No problem.
Okay. Should work now.
All right, 1 second here. Let me click it. Oh, there it was. Hold on. See if it's going. All right. Yep. 1 second here. Share screen. All right, so I'm going to flip over here to, I just have so just a quick introduction. I think a lot of you may recognize me and know me already. My name is Fred Gerloff. I'm an engineer with Aqua, Pennsylvania. And so I've done a number of these presentations over the years. I think the last one, I was probably back in August. So, we wanted to get before you guys, give you a quick update on what's happening with the sewer system. And so I just have a couple quick slides here to present to you. So if you guys are okay seeing that, what's up here, you guys can see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I'll just get into it. Quick update. We're going to recap just a quick background. I think from what I heard in the introductions, we have maybe 2 new members here to give a background on the sewer system, and namely talk to you a little bit about some of our ongoing work, particularly for 2026, give you an update on our connection management plan, and then also some quick news about the Enclave on Melrose development. So the background, again, as I previously presented, we talked a little bit about the background. This diagram here shows kind of a schematic, if you will, of the main interceptor pipe, which is a main trunk line or a conveyance sewer, as we call it, which brings sewage through the entire Cheltenham Township. And it also conveys sewage from Abington, portions of Abington, Jenkintown, a little bit of Springfield on the north end, which is owned by Bucks Water and Sewer. And then lastly, at the bottom right-hand corner, which is the lower portion prior to entering back into, or prior to emptying out down here at MC2 into the City of Philadelphia system for treatment, we have about 7 locations where the City of Philadelphia's sewage enters into Aqua's Cheltenham Interceptor A. This area in particular has a long-standing history of surcharges, SSOs, or known as sanitary sewer overflows, because of the overwhelming amounts of peak flows during wet weather events that this pipe gets, and being undersized, and there's a whole lot of other things going on with that pipe, which create and contribute to these overflows. So because of that, the Department of Environmental Protection, PADEP, has put into place a corrective action plan and therefore a connection management plan, which all of you guys have heard of and we've talked about before, which is kind of DEP's regulation upon new connections and new developments into the system. So again, just touching on the background, it's under corrective action by DEP, namely on the Interceptor A, that lower portion, which we'll talk about again very briefly. I gave some more details about that in the prior presentation, several of them before, about that lower portion and our plans for upgrading it. And another keynote, we determined, through all of our vast work and modeling, that we know that although Aqua is going to continue to replace broken pipes that are leaking, which contribute inflow and infiltration into the system, replacing all the pipe in the world would not resolve this issue. So, it's a combination of flows that we're getting from PWD, Cheltenham, Abington, and Jenkintown. And so just fixing those pipes alone would not resolve this hydraulic overload. It's going to help, and we're working towards it. And a lot of the work we've done to date by fixing pipe has resulted in DEP allowing us several hundred new connections over the past couple years for a lot of these developments and small connections and changes in uses that have occurred. So those have been able to continue, and because of the work that we've done in the collection system. So the long-term plan here, which is, I'm going to give an update later on the not too long plan, it's what we're going to be working on this year, is executing our regional solution. We call it regional again because it affects not only the tributaries, Cheltenham in particular, but also our existing stakeholders, those who use and share and have a financial obligation to pay for upgrades, which involve Abington, Jenkintown, and PWD. So in short, our solution to this not only includes installing a larger and new interceptor line, but also the construction of a new sewage holding tank, which again will kind of tie in a little bit with the Melrose project. So this last year, just real quickly, we completed almost 400,000 linear feet of CCTP pipe inspection in Cheltenham. So we got a really good look at some pipes that have not been inspected in a very, very long time. Roughly 54% of the entire system was inspected. 2,200 manholes, which represents about 64% of the inspections, were done. Those were cataloged and put into our asset management program, which we are using to help guide us in further pipe rehab. So we're spending money in the pipes that need it the most, meaning, we're going to be taking care of more pipes and replacing more things. But again, prioritizing those, ranking them from worst to best. So that was really, really helpful in now and going to be in the future for us continuing to make improvements within the system. In 2026, we're also planning to submit an Act 537 plan update, which will be basically surrounding the Interceptor A capacity improvements. So that will entail a detailed alternatives analysis that we've already completed that says, here's the problem in Cheltenham, here are the variety of things that we looked at in order to solve the problem, and here's what we settled on and why. And so that's a major planning component as of right now. The one that I don't have a date, but the one that the community has right now is decades old. It's an old county plan. So DEP is anxious for a new plan to be submitted, but that plan also will be done in order to, again, document to DEP our plans for the future. So we're going to also continue coordinating with our existing capital stakeholders and those are Abington, Jenkintown, and Springfield, folks that we already have existing agreements with regarding the cost sharing of this major improvement project that we'll be undertaking. And we're also going to be furthering our contract discussions with PWD. And many of those of you who are on the board know that PWD is not currently a stakeholder, meaning they have no obligation, even though they use our pipe and use our infrastructure, to pay for some of the upgrades. So when we talked earlier about a regional solution, bringing everyone to the table and executing this project, really kind of to benefit everyone, but also to have everyone pay their fair share in the project, since they will all benefit from it. So concurrent with those activities, we're going to also be starting to put together the design plans for the interceptor upgrade and the storage tank. So again, I outlined before, our estimate for the total project cost is somewhere between 57 and 83 million. That's a conceptual level estimate at this point, but we'll refine those as we move forward and move along. But again, the timeline for this design, planning, and permitting phase would be 2026 and 2027, and with a plan to start putting shovels in the ground in 28 and 29 for phase one, which would most likely include the tank and some interceptor piping, and then 2030 and 2031, which would be some remaining portions of interceptor upgrades. Moving into the connection management plan, we again, to date, we've secured roughly 905 EDUs for the Cheltenham community. 592 of those, which are some we talked about before, which are now pending approval from DEP, specifically for the Melrose project. So you kind of get a sense of how big this project was. The prior releases were based upon real shovel-ready projects that were known at the time and ready for construction. So those previous releases are listed here as well. And some of the miscellaneous ones that were released were for smaller projects, like change in use, and folks that wanted to convert from septic system, that we keep in reserve for those smaller projects. And just as a footnote, we've been doing a lot of coordination, not only with those stakeholders, but with PADEP regarding this Melrose project, and then also our future permanent tank. They have come forward and said, listen, we realize we're going to be giving you a significant interim allowance of these 592 EDUs. And, they basically said, okay, what we will reserve the right to, really review other EDU requests in the future, until these other improvements are made. So it's no guarantee, for any other larger developments that come along, whether we be able to accommodate, another large project or not. It's kind of a function of a lot of different things, the work we've been doing, but also understanding that, we have a major plan put forth for upgrading the interceptor. And what we talked about previously with the Melrose tract was having them put in a temporary tank and being able to do so because DEP knowing that Aqua has a plan in place and is moving forward on executing the capital plan. So they kind of go hand in hand. With respect, they're all in that area there along the Tookenny Creek Parkway. So I will give a quick update about the Melrose development specifically. So for those of you that don't know, it's that mixed use community on the former golf course. Right now, well, they've requested 592 EDUs. And again, this was kind of a project that came upon us, Aqua, pretty quickly. We had just gotten last year those 150 some odd EDUs. And, we did what we could to jump in and start conversations with DEP about getting a release of this release for this large development. So again, part of those discussions were mainly about having the developer construct a temporary sewage holding tank. And part of that, the reasoning behind that was to not exacerbate the significant new allotment of EDUs discharging directly to the interceptor. DEP wanted some assurances that this new discharge would not exacerbate any of these overflow conditions in the interceptor. So kind of collectively, if you will, it was decided that, okay, if you want to proceed with this design and this development, DEP is working with us to allow us to put in a temporary holding tank. So the idea would be they put their temporary holding tank in, they proceed with the development, all the while in the kind of the timeline that I shared a couple slides ago, Aqua will be constructing and building its own large tank. And once that is online, the temporary tank from Melrose would no longer be needed and would be demolished. So we are in the process of actively working with the developer. I have a meeting with them next week to talk about the plans they submitted to us regarding the pump station and the temporary storage tank, both things which Aqua will be taking ownership of. DEP wants that. Aqua is okay with it because they want to ensure that it's not run by an HOA community that doesn't have experience operating utilities. So Aqua would be taking ownership of not only the collection lines within the development, the centralized pump station, which will convey the flow to the interceptor, and then also this temporary storage tank immediately upon construction. So furthermore, there's a southern portion of the development at the very bottom that we have an agreement to purchase some land from the developer for a permanent storage tank. So again, a lot going on with the development, talking with the developer, some of the details and stuff we're working through right now with them. So right now that's where things stand. I'll open it up to, any questions that you guys may have regarding the presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Fred. Questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Norris, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for that presentation, Aqua. I have a couple of questions. I'll start off towards the beginning.
Commissioner Norris, before you go on, could we end the screen sharing or yeah.
There we go.
Let's sort of see what's going on.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
No problem.
So question for Aqua, you mentioned at the beginning, the pipeline inspections, you've done 54% and the manhole 64%. Is it your intent to complete both of those to 100%? And is there a timeline for that?
Yeah, sure. So I don't have the exact number, but I would say we're already close to 100% with the inspections, meaning we have done work in prior years. So again, we were trying to finish up a lot of the other stuff that was outstanding regarding those inspections. So we really, from an inspection standpoint, we really don't have a whole lot more to do. But some of the parts that we don't have, I can say, are in challenging areas where they're in private easements. I know a lot of which Roger's working on obtaining for us, and some of the really hard areas to get, we'll be working on finishing that up. But yeah, we've got a really good inventory of data. Without the specific number, probably 80-90% of it already completed.
Okay. And before I get to the storage tank question,
Sure.
You mentioned a new interceptor line.
Yep.
Is that planned, and where is that? It sounds like you're talking about that you need to do the interceptor line and a storage tank. As far as the interceptor line, where is that planned, and what's the schedule for that?
Yeah, so the interceptor line would be a replacement of the existing interceptor A in the lower portion. So I'm not sharing my screen anymore, but if you remember that figure that I showed, that bottom portion that was circled, it would be a parallel line. So we would install a new line parallel to that one that would just be larger, and then abandon the old.
Oh, okay. In effect, just replace the old one with a larger one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's see. So as far as what you've settled on to correct the problem, it's two pieces. It's a new interceptor line, and in addition to that, you need to do a storage tank. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So as far as the storage tank, you're talking about Melrose is doing a temporary tank, and then Aqua will either take over that tank or put in their own tank. My first question is this tank above ground or below ground for both Melrose and what you're doing?
Sure. So right now, the Melrose tank would be above ground as it's proposed, because they're going to be pumping into the tank. So there's a centralized, if you've seen the development drawings, there's a centralized pump station which collects flow from, dare I say, I would say it's the west side, northwest side of the development. So all the flow would be collected at that centralized pump station, and the force main coming from that pump station would discharge into the existing interceptor that runs along the creek. In times when that interceptor line is flowing full during wet weather, a signal would be sent to say, hey, don't discharge to this pipe that's flowing full. The flows from that pump station would be diverted to the above ground storage tank that the developer would install. And again, that would be something we would take ownership of and operate and maintain. And once our tank is installed, our tank would be permanent, would be below grade, because we plan to flow by gravity into our tank, unlike the Melrose tank where they're pumping into it. So once our tank is in place, we would demo the above grade Melrose tank and get rid of it.
Okay, so last question before I turn it over to my fellow commissioners who are lined up with questions, and
Sure.
that is, so I'm not familiar at all with these types of tanks.
Sure.
Perhaps I have a feeling others are more familiar and will ask more specific questions. Mine is just sort of a general question as far as the safety or to what extent an above ground tank is noticeable by its neighbors other than being visible, whether it's giving out odor or other things. How safe is it?
Well, from a safety standpoint, I believe I have to go back and look at the drawings, which I'm going to review some more of tomorrow and then next week with the developer. But I think it would be above ground tank, and I think they're going to have like a fence proposed around it So it would look like almost there would be like a small control building there and just an above ground tank with a fence around it. From a safety standpoint, it wouldn't present any other risk than any other pump station or other utility building that you would see in any other community.
Does it give out any smell?
So the idea is that thing's not going to be normally holding sewage, right? On a typical day, it's not going to have any sewage in it. It would just be for when we get these larger rain events that the flow would be diverted to the tank. Now, most of the flow that would be diverted in there is going to be stored for, I think it's being designed for 3 days of storage, which is really kind of an overkill in terms of the number of days. So realistically, the flow would come in, probably be stored there for several hours to a day, day and a half at worst, I would think. 3 days is a contingency, a safety factor. And then from there, the water would drain, the sewage would drain by gravity out of the tank. And inside there would be an internal cleaning system, some sprayers to wash out the residual. So I have to see if the developer has proposed any odor control systems on the tank. Normally it's just a carbon filter or something on the vent, but really you're not talking about holding sewage in there for a long time, and anything that's held would be flushed out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Norris. Commissioners Stein, Arman, and Chirico in that order.
Okay, thanks. I have a couple questions. Can you talk a little bit about the work that was done last year along Interceptor B? I didn't see it listed, but was that relining that was done? And are you do more work along Interceptor B? This was in the area of Washington Lane and Curtis Arboretum.
Yep. Yeah. So we were successful in completing that project. We identified some areas where there was some cracked pipe and leaking pipe. So we got in there to do trenchless technology, CIPP lining. And so we don't have any plans for doing any more work in that area. As of right now, we're going to move to other areas with similar, damaged pipe that we need to repair. So not at present.
Okay. And then bouncing back down to the, Interceptor A area and the storage tank. Why a permanent storage tank and not just a larger Interceptor A replacement? And
Sure.
And then I got that maybe a multi-part question here. How much of the need for this tank is because in heavy rain events, we're getting huge flows from Philadelphia's combined system? Like, is that really what's causing the problem at this particular area? Because we're picking up, they're sending our way before taking it back again.
Okay, so yeah, so first and foremost, the flows that we get from the city of Philadelphia are not combined. It's a separate system. Mm-hmm. So those tributary areas that flow into us are not combined. However, the reason that we need a tank is because I couldn't install a pipe large enough to hold all of the flow that's necessary. The issue is that if I put a large enough pipe in to convey all the flows that are going through that pipe, which we are going to do, the issue is we don't have a free outfall at the PWD system, meaning PWD system downstream in theirs is part of a combined system. So during wet weather, their system is overloaded. And so our flow comes down the line, gets into the city, and I'm putting this very generally, kind of hits a roadblock, right? So, the water has no place to go. So that's why we experience the sanitary sewer overflows from time to time, is because we don't have a free discharge to just convey. There's not an unlimited amount of conveyance capacity to send it into the PWD system. So you have to have that buffer factor to store this flow until the PWD system is open, and then we can let it out.
Okay. And then last question, this is about EDUs.
Mm-hmm.
And please someone correct me, Henry or Fred, if I'm wrong. It's my understanding that if a building sits and isn't being used for a year, the EDUs that had been allotted to the use that was in that building are gone, so that they don't go back into a pot for us to reassign to another address in the township. They are gone until DEP reassesses every 1-2 years how many EDUs we can get. So if that's right, how can we work with Aqua, and who do we work with at DEP to get that resolved?
So yeah, I think first and foremost, that is a DEP thing where they have weighed in and said we are or we're not going to give you credit for certain vacant buildings around there. That's certainly not something Aqua has pushed. So what we try to do is provide, water use, historical water use data to applicants so that they can document what that water use is. And I know myself, Roger, and Henry, advocate for, advocate for them getting credit for the building, but ultimately it's up to DEP.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just wondering if there was some way you thought it would be helpful for us to work with Aqua to approach DEP. Okay, that's all I've got.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Stein. Commissioner Arman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to just tag on to Commissioner Stein's question on that issue, because everybody knows this, but by way of background, one of the biggest hurdles to commercial development in our community is the inability to obtain EDUs. Or I shouldn't say the inability, I should say the difficulty of obtaining EDUs. We have several businesses that tried to start in Glenside in particular, which I'm most familiar with, that have struggled, and it's not necessarily Aqua's fault. It's not necessarily DEP's. Well, maybe it is, but it's certainly not their fault. And you got to sort of give kudos to those businesses that are willing to go through the process to locate in our community after realizing, maybe late, maybe early, that they have to go through this process. So the lack of EDUs is a significant hurdle, is a significant issue. So while certainly I think the township appreciates Aqua's work, not only on the system itself in order to sort of move the ball down the field, also working on the Melrose development, which obviously is an important development in our community. We have to make sure that there's some left over for the small store that wants to open on Easton Road or in Elkins Park or wherever within township, right? So the key is to ensure that we're maximizing the availability of EDUs for these other uses while we're doing the big things. So I think to sort of latch on to what Commissioner Stein was saying, we want to be able to work with Aqua in a cooperative way in order to make sure that we are maximizing all those ancillary EDUs, even if it's like another 50 or another 75, right? Because that could make a big difference for some of these smaller storefronts in our downtown commercial districts. So I was wondering, Fred, it's a long-winded way of saying, can you speak to, number one, what kind of reserve we're going to have in the context of all these other big projects that are going on in the short term, right? While you're doing all your other stuff, and what other strategies can we engage with Aqua and collaborate with DEP to ensure that we're picking up those 2, 3, 4 EDUs over here or over there. And one of the areas that sort of makes sense to me anyway, as a layperson, is if a business shuts down in Glenside and it had traditionally 3 EDUs, that we shouldn't have to go back and beg for those 3 back after that business closes and a new business comes in. And maybe there's a way that we could collaborate to, maybe it's just the township and Aqua, maybe it's the township, Aqua, and our state electeds, maybe it's others, but to ensure that we are getting sort of the credit for those businesses that may have shut down when a new business comes in to replace them. And maybe there's other strategies that you that maybe Roger, that Henry may have that we could be collaborating on. And I think we should try and do that as a team, as opposed to everybody sort of doing their own thing.
Yeah, so I mean, to try to kind of unpack some of that, I think the first and foremost is communication, which, you know, I have a monthly meeting with Roger to talk about developments, and Henry is a part of the discussion, of course, regarding letting us, Aqua, know what's coming down the pipe, right? Even if it's just, hey, we think this is coming, we're not sure when, let's get it on the list. And so we know that when the next go round that we go to get EDUs, we all are thinking about it, and we say, okay, what are the odds of this one coming up? You know, there is a fine line. I understand there's a willing, or there's a want or a desire from the township to kind of get EDUs for everything that might be possible. We're trying to kind of play in the middle of DEP, which says, listen, come to us and ask for EDUs that you know you're going to need, without coming and asking for, I'm not to exaggerate, pie in a sky number to say, give me 1,000 when I know I need 50, right? So we're kind of, you know, we are using relationships from both DEP and the township to communicate what are the needs. Now, regarding the reserves, we have been using, with all of our requests, getting miscellaneous EDUs, if you will. So the first round, I think my slide, I found a typo on it. The first time we got 25 or 30 of them. This next time we got like 45 of them. So we did go and ask for more, because DEP said, well, we'll give you a couple more miscellaneous, so that way we don't have to come back and do another CMP revision. Now, we're reserving those for the change in use and the small projects. You know, we're not going to give 20 of them out to one applicant unless of course it's how should I say, unless that's the direction that the township wants to take on those. They're your EDUs to delve out as you see fit, right? So we make them available. You guys use them up as you want. So I often consult with Henry and say, hey, this guy's looking for this much. Are you okay with doing this? So we always consult and communicate. We are mining from within the current CMP. What does that mean? That means that if we have a project that, for instance, a project that said they were going to need 20 and they only used 15, I'm taking those 5 and putting them back into the pot. So we're mining from projects that didn't need the capacity, or projects that happened to get them years ago. We've done that in the last couple of revisions. We're going to be doing it for the Hanson track right now, which is a project that's a priority for the township. So we're pulling EDUs from another place to kind of do. And I think DEP appreciates that and is allowing us to do that. And they understand that, you know, without going to ask for more, we're looking what we have for within. So we're trying to be efficient to pick up more EDUs that way. So I think as a whole, that would be my response to just doing the best we can on all those things.
That's certainly appreciated, Mr. Gerloff. And to the extent that we at the township can continue to brainstorm with you on other ways to maximize our EDUs under this consent decree, whatever it is. We would like to do that and continue, and to the extent we could be supportive of Aqua in obtaining those, please let us know. I do have just a couple more questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I would, just to follow up with one thing that I wanted to mention. So in the way that we're working with you guys on these EDUs, right? So we're preparing this Act 537 plan, right, for this. And so what we did is we worked with Henry and Roger to look at a whole map of the community and say, where are the undeveloped parcels? What are the parcels that need to be, that we think might be redeveloped? And we came up with a huge list of stuff. So we have, at least a 30-year look ahead on prospective development. Whether it happens or not, we don't know. But Aqua is planning for that in the design of our new interceptor pipe. So the idea here is that we're going to put the tank in, we're going to put the new pipe in, and it will be in consideration of the capacity. Now, mind you, I would say we're operating within the capacity that we have available from the city. So it's not an unlimited, and unfortunately, it's not like unlimited. We're working within the capacity that we have with the city of Philadelphia. And we're taking into account all those future developments in this new planning document.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like in many respects, Cheltenham's being punished because of the failures in Philadelphia, and we're stuck by, we're stuck with the penalties, and they're not even at this point, not even a capital sponsor of these projects.
Yeah, that's a function of just how it was set up, way back in the day. So I mean.
Right.
I don't think DEP's punishing us right now, but we're, and that's what a lot of the work that we've done. I can tell you, it takes a lot of coordination work. We're working pretty well with the city. We've got a plan, a regional solution. So, it's not, if this, like I said, if this was easily solved, then I'm sure it would have been done years ago. But we're doing the best we can, and we've made a ton of progress, a tremendous amount of progress. So.
Fair enough. And I do have just one last question.
Yeah.
It's a two-parter. So the construction plan, so 26, 27 is the design and permitting. 20, 28, 29 is phase 1 construction. 30, 31 is phase 2 construction. So the first question is, how realistic is that timeline? Because obviously it's critically important to the township and the surrounding communities. For not only for our sanitary sewer, but for this EDU issue, for the our relationship with DEP, and ultimately, is it your expectation? And I hope the answer is yes. That once this project is completed, and there is the solution here for the outflow, the I&I and the outflows, all that stuff. Does that mean that then we go to DEP and say, all right, we're fixed. Let's get out of this situation where we're under their thumb. We're in this consent decree. Do they release that at that point?
Yeah.
Is that the goal?
Yeah, that's the end goal, right? Absolutely. I mean, the end goal is to get there, get the pipe in, demonstrate compliance with the new pipe and the tankage. And from there, I mean, it's really hinged upon the SSOs in the interceptor line. So yes, that is the end goal. If the timeline wasn't realistic, I wouldn't put it out there.
Okay.
Again, 2 years. I mean, there's a lot to design and permit, but we're gonna get started on it this year on design plans, and the Act 537 planning itself can take a year. No problem. So again, there's I think it's a realistic time frame. There's always some bumps in the road along the way. I'm not trying to, I've been through a lot of big infrastructure projects, so we know how they go. But I mean, we're gonna put the pedal to the metal and push this forward. It's a priority of ours, and it always has been.
That's great. Thank you again. To the extent the township can be helpful in keeping things moving quickly, please let us know. I appreciate it, Mr. Gerloff. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your time. For allowing me the time.
Matt, this is Roger. Can I jump in for one second here? And just to further answer the question about the redevelopment and the EDUs and not receiving credit from the DEP for previous EDUs that may have existed in that building. Part of that issue is a inherent lack of records. So if there were records that said that building bought 10 EDUs when it was built, and we're talking about the Glenside area and the Elkins Park area that are old, and those records just don't exist. So if a building has not been vacant for that long, and we're able to obtain those water usage records from previous years, we've been successful at getting credits for those EDUs, and DEP's amenable to that, and we've done that. Henry and I work a lot on that with some of the folks that come in and want to redevelop a site, and we've been successful. But there's other places where there's no records, and that is a DEP regulation that if there are no records, it reverts back to zero and you start from scratch. So that's what we've been doing, and we've been very selective in how we dole those miscellaneous EDUs out to make the most efficient use of those, and we've been I think pretty successful with that recently.
Just to add to that real quick, again, it's just a follow-up. Staff is also working on identifying a lot of the vacant properties, commercial properties in the township, specifically Glenside and Elkins Park. We're assessing what those properties are. We're working with the tax office to establish what those water bills, historical water bills were specific to when they did the billing. So we're going to compile that information and hopefully get it out to DEP. Roger will hopefully get it out to DEP so that we can have a justification for why those EDUs should not just disappear, because right now they're not there. But again, with the historical records from when the billing was done, we anticipate that at least if there was proof that there was 5 years of billing that was consistently about the same, those hopefully will be, reacquired.
Great. Thank you for that legwork.
Okay. Thanks, Henry. Commissioner Cherico.
Hey, thank you so much, Mr. Gerloff. Appreciate your time for coming out here today. Just a couple questions from me. You had mentioned that the storage tank that's being built, the temporary storage tank, you referred to it as overkill. Can you explain, clarify for me what that means? And, does that mean that there's additional capacity that, we could potentially take advantage of in the years leading up to the time that Aqua is able to complete construction?
Yeah, it's a good question. So yeah, maybe a little loose on the overkill term. What I was more referring to is a factor of safety and design. So meaning we work with our developer. We use the model that we built and calibrated and are working with now to design our interceptor. So we use that model to run an analysis, a storm analysis in the hydraulics of the interceptor to see, okay, what's the frequency of surcharge in the line? And therefore, what is the duration that the line would be surcharged under a certain storm condition? And then so that resulted to say, okay, that pipe may be surcharged for a day and a half, right? So that means that my tank I designed for that we're not going to allow Melrose flows to discharge need to be stored for up to a day and a half. So what the developer has offered and said, listen, I don't want to leave any questions. We're going to do a factor of safety of 2. So instead of it being a day and a half, we're going to give it 3 days of storage. So if the tank is 100,000 gallons, and I'm just shooting from the hip here, we're going to design it that it's 200,000 gallons. And to follow up the question regarding, can we take advantage of that with other development? The short answer is no. One, because you would have to somehow route other flows from other developments into that tank, which would be difficult. It's contained on the Melrose site. There really wouldn't be any way to utilize it. 2, it would have to be, approved by DEP to say, hey, we're going to divert flow from this other portion of our system to this tank. It's not really what it was intended for. I don't know that they go for it, but it's a great question. I think the goal here is that tank would not be, based on my schedule, installed very long. That our other project would be underway, and in hopes that tank would be no longer needed in just a few years. So.
And my one other question: do you have a handle on what the EDU releases are for Abington and Jenkintown?
I do, but I don't have the numbers in front of me. So those are kind of reviewed independently. I mean, we package them up from Abington and Jenkintown along with our requests, and they get forwarded to the DEP. So I don't have any of the numbers handy, but I'd be happy to share it with whomever. Yeah,
they go through the same critical scope of. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. They're very much under the thumb too of the regulation of the connection management.
That's all I have. Thanks so much. I appreciate you explaining all this for us.
Sure. Yep.
Thanks, Commissioner Cherico. Commissioner Brockington.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clark, for showing up today. The above ground, and you said there'll be a fence around it. Do you have any idea how close that will be to the homes and the businesses in this development? Do you have that? You wouldn't know that.
Yeah, so I don't have a figure to share. I mean, I could, but if you look at the development plans that are prepared, I believe the developer has depicted that on there already. It's on the, it's on the east side of the development, all the way at the southernmost tip. I think there's a cul-de-sac with a couple townhomes at the bottom. So it's not in the center of the development. It's very much on the bottom end, on the south end, probably with only an eyesight from some of the townhomes on that side. And again, that's something for your team to talk to the developer about what plantings or things they want around the tank. That would be up to you and your planning departments to talk to them about it.
So I guess at this point you couldn't guesstimate how long you think the temporary tank would be there.
Well, it depends. Yeah, it just depends on when they get all their approvals to proceed with the tank, and when they get started. It's going to be the first thing. So
No, I mean, how long will it be there once it's installed?
Well, right. When does I don't know when it gets installed, but after if it falls within the timeline of our tank, which should be phase 1. So you're looking at 28, 29. So if that, let's just pretend, let's say that the developer's tank goes in 27, right? Okay. The next year, 28, we would be breaking ground on our tank. So that's probably a 2-year long process. So the tank could be there for 2 years.
So you happen to know the location of where your tank's going to go?
Yeah, it's just going to be on the down. It's going to be further south. Again, there's an area further south of where the developer's tank is proposed, and it's an area with steep slopes. It's down towards the creek, and so and it's all going to be underground because
your tank's going to be underground.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's going to be on a downhill slope, underground. It's not going to be sticking above grade to see it. Yeah.
Okay. And then what happens to the former tank? Is that just knocked down and
Aqua will decommission it? I think at this point we'll probably get an escrow to be held to put up by the developer. So when it's done, we'll take the escrow money and demolish the tank.
Okay. All right. That's all I have for tonight, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Brockington. Commissioner Waltz.
Nice to meet you, albeit virtually. Look, being perfectly honest, a lot of this is lost on me. It's not my area of expertise, but what really resonates with me is how this impacts our constituents. And I've been hearing a lot over the last year or so about Aqua billing with our constituents. And so as you're talking, I wrote down that you were thinking of, or that the estimate for the interceptor and storage tank is around $50 to $80 million. First of all, that seems like a pretty big range. So I'm wondering at what point it starts to get a little narrowed in for us. And then I'm also wondering how that ultimately impacts the Cheltenham ratepayers and how we should be appropriately communicating that with the folks who live in our township.
Sure. And I'll be fully transparent. I'm not a rate analyst. I'm an engineer. I'm a pumps and pipe guy. So I really can't answer the rate questions. But what I will tell you, the number that I gave you is the total that would be shared by all the stakeholders. So that's not just going to fall on the Cheltenham customers as a whole. So, I think by intermunicipal agreement, the cost will be shared flow proportionately. So, I mean, in rough figures, there's Aqua Cheltenham is like what I think Abington's like 36%, Jenkintown's 12%, Springfield's like less than 1%, and Cheltenham's like 50%. So again, that cost is being shared by those communities, and then PWD will ultimately have a share in this as well. And the reason for the large range is, this is a joke, but you never give a specific number on a budget, right? Because they'll hold you to the budget. But more specifically, why there's a range is because factored into the design, which we haven't quite settled on, is what we call the level of service. So when we analyze the tank, it's similar to stormwater, is like, okay, we're sizing this based on a wet weather storm. So we know when we get a lot of rain, we're going to get a lot of wet weather, meaning it's going to pick the flows up. So we look at our analysis is based on a level of service. So it's almost like a design storm. So it's like the 5-year versus the 10-year storm. So, again, we haven't decided on a level of service, but that's why the range is there to kind of say, well, if you had this level of service, this storm versus this storm. probably going to be somewhere in between. But it's discussions that we're having with everyone, our stakeholders, about finding the sweet spot between the economics of it. And that's the primary point.
I appreciate that. I also would just say, like, any insight that you can continue to give us into
Yeah.
the patients, that we can help communicate that to everyone, because, you know, like,
Yeah.
we're in a rock and a hard place.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and again, it's a conceptual level, so there's a lot of contingency built in there. As I get design plans done, we will further refine the level and the cost based on all those factors. So again, as you make progress in the design, your contingencies go down, you get narrowed in towards what the cost will actually be. So I'd be happy to share those in future meetings and updates. So
Thanks.
That's it, Commissioner Walt? Okay. Commissioner Norris, did you forget to put your hand down, or did you
No.
put it up again?
I put it up again. Just a couple of quick ones. Mr. Gerloff, the size of the tank, the one above ground, the height and the length?
I don't have the height and the length. I think it's a 300,000 gallon storage tank. Let me see.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. I have to just pull up the, let me see if I can have it here, but see if I can find the plans. Let's see here.
You have another question, Dan?
Yes. So the other two questions are really just clarifications of previously answered questions. One is, I believe you said approximately 2 years before the above ground tank was moved underground. Is that correct?
No, we're not moving the underground tank.
No, I don't mean moving it. Before
removing it. Yeah.
Before it would be replaced. About
Again,
2 years.
Yeah, that just depends on when the developer does his project and construction. So if he doesn't do it for 2 years, I mean, our project is going to go forward regardless of how Melrose. But the idea that is we were with the understanding that the Melrose and the developer wants to move quickly to get this done. So just depends on how soon they get their tank done. Okay.
And did I also hear that it would be approximately the year 2030 before we Cheltenham were released from DEP EDU control?
Well, I would say if we do the project in phases, you're going to see benefits of the capacity being increased. So phase one, once the tank goes online, we're going to see benefits already during storm performance. So again, that's part of the communication we would have with DEP, trying to, as we complete work, just like we have in the past, complete work, get credit for the work, get the EDU. So presumably it should get a lot easier, but by the end of the whole project, our expectation was that the CMP and the CAP would be lifted.
Right, and that lifting of the control from DEP would be approximately 2030. The end of the line.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sorry, I'm looking here. The storage tank at the Melrose tract is 770,000 gallons, which would provide 5 days of storage, which is way more than enough. Again, and it's about 64 feet in diameter and just 35 feet high. That's what's currently proposed.
Okay. Thank you very much for your information.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions from the commissioners?
Yes, I do have one.
Go ahead.
To jump back in. And hold this to my ignorance. So this might sound a little silly, but is there any way that we can just go right to your storage tank? Why do we need the temporary tank? Because you're saying it depends on when they do their temporary tank on when you can do yours.
No.
So am I missing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have our timeline and moving forward with this project. We knew we were going to get started with design. We knew we were going to have 2 years of design and permitting. But last year, the township and the developer approached us, out of the blue and said, we need 592 EDUs for this development. And we said, boy, all right, how are we going to do this? So we didn't know anything about it. We said, let's sit down, talk about what the needs are, and let's get a conversation going with DEP. And so that's the point where developer says, we want to do this project tomorrow.
Okay.
Like as soon as we want to break ground next year is what they told me, like in 2026. And I said, well, okay, there's probably a lot that has to happen here, but we'll do the best we can to get these EDUs secured so we can move forward. So again, their project, we're going to support it. We're going to make sure that it moves forward as quick as possible, but we have our own independent timeline. But the understanding is that the developer and the township want to see this project go as quickly as possible. So that's why the whole tank concept, the temporary tank concept, was brought about.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
That's it.
Hey, Commissioner Brockington. Any other questions from the commissioners? If not, I'm going to go to Miss Iser. She's had her hand up for quite some time. Miss Iser, go.
Just sitting back here as a sewer queen. I have a couple questions. Sadly, this is not a topic I'm not uneducated on, but I have a couple. Just some edifications that Fred brought up, and actually Roger did. Just to Fred and Roger, didn't the DEP extend our period of time a few years back, like on a vacant property? If we could prove that the water usage, then we could use those EDUs. Wasn't that extended to 12 months during COVID because we weren't doing any development? Am I wrong on that?
The DEP regulation is 12 months. What they've allowed us to do recently is go back even further. Should we have adequate water usage records, or like Henry mentioned, billing records that showed what they were billed years back. COVID aside, their normal regulation is 12 months.
That was my question, just that I thought that they had given us an extended period if we could prove the water. I just wanted that kind of reiterated so everybody understood. And then on the DEP, Fred, we're always going to be regulated on EDUs by the DEP, correct?
Well, not under a connection management plan, but yes, ultimately DEP does review and approve all sewage planning applications. So they, so for communities that don't have connection management plans, they do review planning modules and so forth. The caveat being, Rhonda, we would not have a connection management plan where we would have to go seek revision, ask for more EDUs. It would be a much more streamlined process. Again, because they would know we wouldn't have this sanitary sewer overflow issue any longer.
And as Fred says, it's when you're not subject to a connection management plan, it's almost self-reporting as a township, where you're responsible to regulate that on your own and control that on your own.
Correct.
For the total capacity, DEP still will approve large planning modules for larger projects, but it's almost the self-regulation until something happens and the DEP steps in and gives you a connection management plan. And that's what happened 15, 20, 30 years ago. This was all self-regulating until it wasn't.
No, that was what I wanted you all to clarify so that others understood. And then Commissioner Waltz's question on the budget. A lot of these improvements were already figured into the budget proposal to the PUC when the budget was approved. So this shouldn't affect the ratepayers for a number of years, correct? I mean, look, I read the whole PUC proposal, but these kind of repairs were already figured in, if I'm not mistaken, correct, Fred?
Yeah, so I guess it depends. The rate case years, I think, are once every couple years that we have them. So I believe, I'm not specific as far as what was included there regarding that report that you referenced. Again, I'm not really a rates guy, but it would be, again, I think we do a rate case once every 3 years with the PUC regarding prior expenditures. But again,
it's every 2, I think.
Okay.
The fact of the matter is we're going to pay for it one way or the other.
Right.
Well, we were going to pay for it if we owned it, so it's just a matter of what
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying it's going to get paid for.
I was kind of teasing.
Are you good, Miss Iser?
No, that was all I wanted to just verify.
All right.
Was just that. Thank
Okay,
you for
thank
my
you.
time.
Say that was Emily Stein's understanding as well, and she corrected me. So that might actually be the case, Rhonda. Thank you.
Okay.
That might.
Okay, couple quick things before we wrap this up. Let me say this past hour has been pretty enlightening. And I want to commend the commissioners for the great questions. And Fred, you're the best. You took on the best commissioners in the county, and you gave us some good information, man. So
yeah, happy to do so.
so thank you, thank you, thank you. A couple quick things before I
Yep.
turn it over to Mr. President to wrap it up. So I think this whole EDU issue and what DEP may be holding against us, I think at some point we need to engage the elected officials, let them know what's going on. DEP gets a lot of money from the state. We need to introduce this to our elected officials while we continue to collaborate with Aqua and any of the other stakeholders. I still don't understand, and I'm not looking for an answer tonight as to why the acquisition of EDUs are so precious and so challenging to get. Nor do I understand why we're under DEP's management for EDUs, but that's a topic for another day. The 50 to 80 million, was that discussed at the time we sold the system?
Yes.
Okay. All right, cool. All right. I have no further questions. This was really great. Mr. President, you want to wrap this segment up?
Sure. I don't know that I could do a better job than you just did. But thanks to everybody, Mr. Gerloff. Again, I think the key takeaway here is we appreciate the communication. We appreciate the information. We appreciate Aqua's continued work in support of our sanitary sewer system. And we want to continue to be good partners with you in order to make sure that we are serving our constituents, whether it's in terms of the rates they pay, the ability that they have to open businesses, and ultimately to ensure that the sewer system is in the top shape that we expect and want it to be in. So thank you for all of that.
Yeah, I can tell you it's not something we take lightly. So it's a very high priority project for us. And so, we're working diligently on coming up with the best solution for everybody. So thanks. I'm going to sign off.
I appreciate you. Have a good evening. And again, thanks for everyone's patience. Is there any other old business? Any? Okay. Moving along to new business. 3A, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners adopt a resolution approving the sewer facilities planning module, SFPM, for Glenside Elementary School located at 400 Harrison Avenue, Glenside, PA, for the proposed expansion of the school that will lead to generating an additional flow of 1,498.6 GPD or 5.71 EDUs. What is GPD? Anyone?
Gallons per day.
Okay, we're gonna move.
Is that right, Roger?
I can take this, Commissioner, if you'd like.
Yes, please. Thanks.
So both topics A and B are very similar, and they're
just different schools. Looks like
different schools, and it's appropriate that after our discussion with Aqua, this is the allocation of EDUs for both of these school expansion projects. So the DEP planning modules require that these EDUs be approved by resolution of the board in order to move both of these expansions forward in DEP's eyes. So what's before you tonight on A and B are the two planning module resolutions providing for the noted EDUs in both A and B for both of the schools. So upon your approval, these will move forward when complete for DEP's approval.
And if I may add real quick, this is an example of, us as the township allocating designating unallocated EDUs towards a project. Again, these are just a couple projects that came up. They don't that we are basically taking unallocated EDUs and applying them to a project or two projects.
Commissioner Lewis, did we lose you?
My sincere apologies.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. So any questions on 3A? Any questions, comments? Mr. President?
So
Do
I
we
guess
want
we'll
to
take
take
them
a vote
separate.
here?
Yeah, so I'll take a motion for recommending the Board of Commissioners adopt a resolution approving the sewer facilities module for Glenside Elementary School. We have a motion.
Yeah, so moved.
All right, moved by Commissioner Norris. Any comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of recommending the Board of Commissioners adopt the resolution for Glenside Elementary School, say aye.
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 Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Yep.
3B, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners adopt a resolution approving the sewer facilities planning module SFPM for Cedarbrook Middle School located at 300 Longfellow Road, Wyncote, PA, for the proposed expansion of the school that will lead to generating an additional flow of 1,334 GPD or 5.08 EDUs. Mr. President?
So I'll move for recommending the Board of Commissioners adopt this resolution for Cedarbrook Middle School. I don't know that we're to conclude that middle schoolers use the bathroom less than elementary schoolers, but be that as it may, are there any comments or questions on the motion for adoption of this resolution or recommending the adoption of this resolution? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
3C, I make a motion considering recommending the Board of Commissioners authorize entering into a memorandum of understanding with Montgomery County to create a traffic garden at Thomas Williams Park and authorization to cover costs not covered by Montgomery County.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I can
Please.
introduce this real quick. Again, This is an initiative that was that staff came up with, specifically Ms. Etweiler from the Planning and Zoning Department. That's one of our planners. It's an initiative she came up with and was able to do some research and discovered potential funding from the Traffic Safety Division of the county Public Health Department. So I'll turn it over to her. We have a couple county officials that are represented here as well, but I'll turn it over to her to give a quick background on this and potential impacts on the community in terms of safety for our families and children.
Thank you, Henry. I don't know how I'm going to follow the really exciting sewer stuff, but I hope I can, make it just as intriguing. I have Laura Williamson here from Montgomery County. And yeah, she can,
Hello.
we'll tag team this. Yeah. So, and I don't know if I can share my screen. Oh, there it is. Okay. So I will try to make this not horribly long, but, I discovered what a traffic garden was about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago in a training. And, I thought, oh, wow, this is really interesting. So a traffic garden is a set of scaled down streets and crosswalks where children and families can practice walking and biking in a safe and fun environment. So when I saw this and I noticed there were some other ones in Montgomery County, I thought, what can we do to get this to Cheltenham? Okay, so the goals of a traffic garden include roadway education, pedestrian skills, bicycling skills, and fun and physical activity. Now, I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. So here are some examples of some local traffic gardens. This one's close to my home. Just involves pavement markings, and you can see that it features traffic elements that are in that community. So in this community, in Hatboro, they have a traffic circle. It shows you, just different elements, T intersections, what have you. And then there's one in New Hanover Township that's a little more involved. You can see that this one will show kids how to know which side of the road to be on, how to stop at a stop sign, how to use a crosswalk. I like this example because it shows kids using this space, and so you can kind of understand the scale of a project like this and how it can really be utilized by the community. So where would we put this in Cheltenham? Great question. Thomas Williams Park is really a great contender for this project. This area circled in pink is already existing impervious surface, so we wouldn't be adding any impervious surface that would increase any stormwater issues. It's right adjacent to a playground and some other sport activities. And apparently this area is already being used by the community for teaching kids how to ride bikes. So it's kind of, already a built-in audience. I just want to take a second to thank all the different departments in the township who've been working on this with me. Our folks in Public Works got a quote to resurface this area because it does need a little bit of work to make it suitable for this. So they got that quote. Bob Dominic has also been involved and on board. Parks and Rec, the Friends group, has been consulted and they seem excited about the project. Just so you can understand kind of where this is located in the township. It's in a mostly residential area, so this is going to cater to the families in the area. I see this being geared more towards a younger audience just because of the size of the space. It's about 3,600 square feet, I believe, per my notes. And when I saw this traffic garden idea, I reached out to our county planner, Chloe Moore, and just wanted to know more about how to get one of these. And it was very serendipitous because apparently there is grant funding that runs out the end of this year. And Cheltenham is one of I think the only community left that qualifies for this based on our crash data. Unfortunately, Cheltenham is in the top 5 municipalities of the highest number of crashes, and that's not something we want to be in the top 5 of. So through this program at the county, they're hoping to reduce pedestrian issues with crashes through teaching traffic safety. Yeah, and there's about, I believe, $11,750 initially available for reimbursement, and I will maybe pass it over to Laura if she wants to weigh in.
Yeah. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Laura Williamson. I'm the Community Traffic Safety Program Coordinator for the Montgomery County Office of Public Health. So we have funding to create traffic gardens throughout the county. So far, we completed 3. We did one in Hatboro that you saw, New Hanover, and we completed one just last fall in Lansdale. We do have funding designated for these traffic gardens. The base funding is $11,750, and we're working with our grant manager to do a budget modification to bring forward unused funds from the previous grant year to pay for that new pavement and any other kind of things that might arise. Our goal with these traffic gardens is to create a safe space for children to learn how to ride bikes, be safe pedestrians, but away from the dangers of real traffic. And we hope it can boost like the park. We want this to be an added amenity to the park as it is. And we also love that it's near so many homes, so people can walk to this place, they can bike to this place. They don't necessarily have to drive to the traffic garden. Let me see my notes. Okay. Once this is completed, we hope to have a big grand opening, and at the grand opening, we will have a helmet distribution. So we'll provide free helmets to any kids or parents who need them. We've done this so far at each of the grand openings, so that's just a fun little thing we like to do. Does anyone have any questions? Julia, did I forget anything?
No, I mean, I left out kind of the nitty gritty about how this would come about. So, we don't have a ton of images at this point because this traffic garden would be designed by Montgomery County Planning Commission. And they would use, they would scale it to this space and they would make sure that everything is actually usable. This is a turning radius that a bike can fit around. And so Montgomery County Planning Commission does that sketch. And then we will, I believe the county comes out and they will chalk it onto the surface. It sounds like a really fun day. If anyone wants to come out and get involved. And yeah, so they'll chalk it out. And then we were hoping to use township staff and others to paint the design onto the surface. And yeah, and then the rest is history. And hopefully we'll have this really cool feature. That the other thing I liked was by just doing the painting aspect of this, some of these get a little more involved with like a safety town type situation with buildings, but by leaving this open, it'll still be available for community use in that park. So it'll still be available as like a multi-purpose space.
Laura, can you talk a little bit about the memorandum of understanding?
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yes. So we're still working on it. We drafted it. We sent it to our administrator to review it and get her final say on it. Essentially, it's just gonna be an agreement that we will provide the fund. We will provide the reimbursement. Cheltenham will incur all the costs, send us an invoice, and we will reimburse you. We also agreed that we will be in charge of chalking the design, creating the design, working with the Office of Public Health to make sure the design is to scale, and other stuff like that. Let me bring up the drafted MOU.
And is there an opportunity for review of that draft? I mean, not the MOU, but the sketch plan. Is that going to be?
Absolutely, yes. We are putting together a few different options for you to look at, just like draft designs. And then you can pick which one you like the best, and we will send it off to our planning commission to get them to make the design as close as possible, but to fit the space.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's a good question, Henry. So what we have here is recommending that we authorize entering into a MOU, but there has to be some contingency there because we don't know what's in the MOU. Correct?
Yes, I think Laura was going to share a draft of it on the screen.
Do you want me to share the screen?
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't get this ahead of time as well. But Mr. President, do you want to view that now or after?
I don't think it's a I don't think we could do it in real time in the meeting. I think we'll make a recommendation sort of subject to review of the MOA.
Yep. Okay. With that said, I want to move to the commissioners. I have Commissioners Nars, Cherico, Stein, and Walls.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you further explain the cost? Ms. Williamson, it sounded like you mentioned 11,000, but then if I heard correctly, it sounds like we're eligible for perhaps another 11,000 for the prior year. And does that cover our total costs?
Good question. So the 11,750, that is the base cost we estimate the traffic garden to be. The Lansdale traffic garden ended up being about $8,500, so it could be less. We won't know for sure how much a traffic garden is until we get our hands dirty and start working. But I do know that Julia and her team, she requested a quote to get that surface repaved, and I believe it was about, wasn't it 13,000?
Yeah, so it was about it was 13,200-ish. And so when we got that quote back and I knew it was over what we, anticipated for the whole project, I reached back out to the county and they're being really great and working with us. And, we all want to see this happen. Shout out to Bo for getting the quotes. From my research, the average cost of the traffic gardens in this area has been 9,000 to 15,000 ish, approximately.
Yeah.
And Laura, I'm sure you can speak more to this, but I imagine the bulk of the expense in these projects is with the paving.
Absolutely.
So, and after this, really the materials are going to be like paint supplies and stencils for the paint. And I believe in our earlier meeting, Laura, you said that there is a community that installed a traffic garden recently that will kindly let us borrow their stencils so we can save on that expense.
Yep. Yeah, New Hanover, they bought stencils and they even DIY'd some stencils and they let us use them for the Hatboro project, the Lansdale project, so they're happy to let us use them again. But I also want to touch base on whatever the resurfaces, we should have the funding to cover it. I'm really not concerned that you guys will end up with a bill at the end of this project. I'm just really not concerned. We have the funding. We will make it work.
That's great to hear. And Julia, you mentioned that this spot currently is impervious. What is there now, or what was there?
So it's basically just in like kind of paved surface, like concrete, has some plants growing through it. It's not in great shape. I went there before the snow fell. Like if you went there right now, you wouldn't see much. We do have a site meeting planned for later in the month, and anyone who's interested, I can loop you in. We're going to go there with the county and the other folks, like stakeholders, just to see the site. I have been out there though with my colleague Galia, and we think it's going to lend itself well to this.
Okay, and lastly, perhaps if you could bring up that one screen again and show me where the playground is compared to where this is.
Yeah,
You said
so
it would.
Yeah, the playground is kind of actually intersected by this pink circle. So it's right next to this area, and it's also near the parking area. So it's in a good spot in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Norris. Commissioner Cherico.
There we go. Julia, thank you so much for coming up, finding out about this and bringing this out. I appreciate staff members like yourself who come up with these, relatively low cost projects that add value and amenities to our community. I've never heard of a traffic garden before. When I saw it in the agenda, I couldn't even fathom what it was. So until I saw your picture. So thank you for stepping outside and finding this and bringing it to us. I think it's fantastic. My other question was pretty much already answered. I was just saying, hey, could we have like the New Hanover version of this? Because that one looks like the version that is most aesthetically pleasing. But it seems like if we're able to borrow those stencils, that we could probably create something very similar to that look colorful and bright and clear. So this is really exciting, and I really appreciate everyone involved, both the county and you, Julia, and Galia, and everyone else involved.
Thank you. I mean, and if folks who have met me in person know that I don't do things very plain. So trust me, this will be colorful and exciting.
All right. I'll hold you to it.
Julia, does anyone have to maintain or manage that facility, if you will?
I don't believe so, outside of if like the paint ever needed to be touched up. Some of these traffic gardens, like I said, are a little more elaborate. So some of them will repurpose like decommissioned traffic signs. And I had considered that, but then that would involve the staff time of like taking them out, building some sort of structure to put them in. So I was thinking for this one, we kind of keep it simple in that sense. And then, maybe this could be kind of a jumping off point. Like I said, there's some safety towns out there that are really cool and involve community sponsorship There's one where like local businesses will pay, towards it, and then they get a little facade with their business name on it. But we have to start somewhere. We have to crawl before we can walk. So I think this is a really great starting point and proof of concept, and hopefully will help everyone better learn their traffic stuff.
Excellent. Commissioner Stein, thanks.
I also want to just thank all the staff and Julia for putting this together. I can answer Commissioner Norris's question that this concrete slab was the location of the annex building for Thomas Williams Junior High School, which was where the tennis courts are now. So it's just been an empty slab since the buildings were demolished in, I guess, sometime in the late 70s. At least since 1986, it's been empty. And I think it's great to use it for this purpose because many, many children have learned to ride bikes on that slab, including me. So thank you to everybody. I'm really looking forward to seeing it completed.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Walls?
I don't have a question, just more praise. I'm just extending thanks to Montgomery County for this program. My children all learned to ride their scooters and their bikes at Safetyville in Masons Mills Park, which Julia was referring to previously. They have erected buildings that look like all of the stores in downtown Willow Grove, and they sold the rights to those when they first did the park and raised money to do it, which is a awesome project. Also, there's one off of Street Road where all of our children learned the ins and outs of crossing the street and looking both ways. And I'm thrilled to bring this to the community. And I really hope that this is just the first of many projects like it, because I think that this is the type of thing that the young parents in our area are just going to be so excited to have in their backyard. So kudos and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Brockington?
Yes, thank you, sir. I may be jumping the gun here, but Julie, again, thank you very much. Have you looked at see if we can do this in any other areas in the township, any other playgrounds or school grounds or anything like that? I mean, I love it here, but I was thinking about other portions of the township. Have you looked to see if is this something that we can double up on?
Yeah, so I did consider, we looked in some other locations. I consulted with Bill, our Parks and Rec director, on kind of where he thought this would make the most sense for all of their programming. So this was really a collaborative, like everyone coming together type of project. And, I wanted to avoid putting this in the floodplain or anywhere like that. And a lot of the parks are in that. I liked that this spot was already impervious, so we wouldn't be dealing with any stormwater issues or creating any new stormwater issues. So, I thought that this was kind of a low-hanging fruit type of opportunity to try it out. And, like I said, I think that this is such a cool concept and there's so much that we can do with it. And that this will be scaled towards the younger children. And so maybe if we did another one of these down the road, we could kind of learn from our experience doing this one and like make the next one like bigger and more exciting. And we'll already have the stencils to borrow. So,
Fantastic. Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners? Citizens, are there any questions? Comments? Okay. Consider recommending the Board of Commissioners authorize entering into a memorandum of understanding with Montgomery County to create a traffic garden at Thomas Williams Park and authorization to cover costs not covered by Montgomery County, subject to a review and approval of the MOU. Mr. President?
Well stated, Commissioner Lewis. Any comments or questions on the motion? Thank you to Ms. Detweiler and Ms. Williamson and the whole team that worked on this. Great project, and reiterate all the kudos that have been said already. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really excited, and I'll let you guys know about the next site visit.
Yeah, we are too.
Awesome.
And And we knew Commissioner Cherico would really love this.
Learn how to
When I
ride.
found out what a traffic guard was, Commissioner Cherico, I was like you, what is a traffic guard? But now we know. Thank
You
you.
can take your tricycles there, gentlemen.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
Take the
Okay. Moving along, 3D, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners award a contract to Albert G. Cipollone Jr. and Sons Incorporated in the amount of $68,569.23 for the Chelten Hills Drive and Whitewood Road intersection pedestrian improvement project, which details are attached. And because of the dollar amount, I'm sure Joe Stuckert wouldn't mind talking about this.
Sure. No
ahead,
problem,
Joe.
Commissioner. This has been the project we've been working on with the commissioners and with the engineer regarding safer pedestrian crossings at that location. So this would be to award the contract for the actual construction work at the location, which does include the road markings and signage.
Okay, thank you. When does this start? When would this start and end?
Well, you'll approve it, I guess, in another 2 weeks. Officially approve it at the Board of Commissioners meeting, and then we'll issue a notice of award, and they have to get some paperwork back and things like that, and then we'll do a notice to proceed. So it's probably a couple months before it starts.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Commissioners, Commissioner Cherico.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Stuckert, a quick question. Will we be aligning this or ask the Cipollone to align this with our installation of speed cushions, excuse me?
So we'll be doing this project, and well, Cipollone will be doing the project at the intersection, and I believe the township will be doing the speed cushions.
Right.
So it's a matter of, we don't want to hold the contractor up. And so, if they're ready before we are, then they'll do their part, and then we'll install the speed humps.
Okay, thank you. My other question, and forgive me, this maybe should be held to another meeting, but the last month we voted on the speed cushions, and the way that the language was written, it didn't strike me until just this past weekend. We had indicated that the speed cushions would be between Whitewood and I think we said Ivy. The problem with that is that the crosswalk is at Whitewood, and I think for the purposes of improving safety on that street, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure, but I would think that there should be a speed bump on both sides of the pedestrian crossing in order to slow traffic and help motorists realize, okay, we're slowing down. Oh, and here's a crosswalk. Can anyone speak to that? Is that the plan? Because if it is, the wording in the approval that we gave last month may need to change.
Commissioners, speed cushions, they're more designed to be mid-block. There's certain requirements for how far away from the intersection they're supposed to be, so it shouldn't interfere with it whatsoever. We'll look at it as a whole plan.
Okay, I'm not asking that they're going to interfere. I'm asking that they will be the speed cushions will be on opposite sides. Like I know we approved 3 sets. Can we have the cushions on both sides of the pedestrian crosswalk?
I don't think that'll be an issue at all.
Okay. All right. Because that otherwise we're going to have people speeding from Old York Road. And if we truly have the speed cushions between Whitewood, anyone coming up from Old York Road will hit the pedestrian crossing before they hit a speed bump. And so that's why I want to make sure that we put a speed bump east of Whitewood on Chelten Hills in order to help slow traffic down. So, all right, just wanted to make sure that was clear and that we can make sure that is understood. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. That's all I have.
Any other questions, commissioners, citizens? Mr. President?
So I'll move for recommending the Board of Commissioners award the contract in the amount of $68,569.23 for the Chelten Hills Drive and Whitewood Road intersection pedestrian improvement project. Any comments or questions there we haven't already had from the board? No, seeing none. How about from the public? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Who was that?
Back to you, Commissioner.
Okay.
Lewis.
Thank you. 3E, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners authorize the preparation of a request for proposals and formation of an ad hoc steering committee to facilitate the Parkview Park Greenway. Allison, you want to talk about that?
Sure, absolutely. So the township was recently awarded a grant in the amount of $63,000 through DCED's Greenways Trails and Recreations program. This grant was designed to help us with our stormwater management program. And when we were looking at the stormwater management program in this grant, we thought there would also be a natural nexus, not only to facilitate stormwater improvements in this park, which were identified in our pollution reduction plan as part of the MS4, but also to look at some potential trail connections in the area. I think there's some natural connections as we're looking at our Tokenie Creek Trail and looking at the new development in the area and making those connections. So we thought this grant would help us with developing a plan for this and any other amenities that might be helpful in the park, focusing not only on the recreational amenities, but also and stormwater, but also how can we improve the natural habitat in that park. So I'm looking, one, to be able to put out an RFP to select a consultant to help guide us through this process and to do some conceptual design work, but also to put a steering committee together in order to help facilitate that process and also bring the knowledge of the parks and the neighborhood into that. We anticipate there will be a couple public meetings as part of this process, but typically a lot of these park master planning projects are done with a steering committee to help with that process. So, and usually steering committees are about 5 to 10 members, usually an odd number, consisting of people who live in the area or have special interests. I think maybe it might not be a bad idea to have a member of one of our new active transportation committee participate as well. So we would look forward to, with your authorization, to put a committee together to facilitate the process as well as selecting a consultant.
Commissioners, any questions, comments? Seeing none. Citizens, any questions or comments? Mr. President?
So I'll move to recommend the Board of Commissioners authorize the preparation of a request for proposals. So described. Comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
3F, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners adopt a proclamation recognizing the month of April 2026 as Safe Digging Month. Allison, can you share what Safe Digging Month is and how we can do it safely?
Absolutely. So this is a proclamation that we issue every year. This is to let people know and create awareness about how important it is to call the Pennsylvania One Call system, also known as the 811, before they do any work on their properties that requires digging. This will allow people to come out and mark out where the utilities are. Because if they hit them, like a gas, sewer, or electric line, it could be costly to make the repairs and potentially pretty dangerous. So we just want to be able to get the word out and ensure that people are digging on the property safely.
Commissioners, any questions, comments? Citizens? Mr. President?
So I'll move to recommend the Board of Commissioners adopt the proclamation recognizing the month of April 2026 as Safe Digging Month. Comments or questions from the board or the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 4, Citizens Forum.
Can you ask for other new business?
Oh, no. Yes.
This
My apologies, Commissioner Cherico.
No worries, and I'm not here to extend the meeting, but I do want to bring up something that I think maybe should have fallen under old business. But we have been made aware through one of our community members, John Raish. When I say we, I mean the commissioners and staff, about the meeting in Abington and Jenkintown regarding SPS. There is a waiver, I believe a land development waiver that has been presented. I feel like we as a township have been silent on this issue, and this is concerning for many, many reasons I don't need to get into. But there is a lot of, I think, interest in Cheltenham, or we should have a lot of interest in what happens there. And I think we should be involved in whatever capacity we can to raise our voices, to speak with Abington Township leaders, to encourage smart development, whether that means improving the creek, the bank along the creeks, whether it includes grassy areas for recreation. I think there's a lot of options that have been put on the table, and I think that as a township, we need to stay informed because we really haven't heard anything about this or what's going on. So I think we should be getting regular updates from staff about what's happening and then we as commissioners need to decide what are we going to do, how are we going to get involved and make sure that we're being heard. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. That's good stuff, Mr. President.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioner Cherico. I think I agree that it's very important that we stay involved in this process. Manager Elliott, I think that assigning, I know that when the fire emergency happened, we had a staff person. I can't remember who it was, but who was sort of our point person dealing with SPS, dealing with Abington, dealing with all those meetings and whatnot. And I think it's important to have somebody currently involved in a similar fashion so that we have a point person. We are getting reports back and also able to share our feedback, which has been, as Commissioner Cherico said, done mostly from residents and not so much from the township itself, as far as I'm aware, anyway. So I think coordinating those efforts with our community members and ensuring that we're getting not only a seat at the table, but getting feedback from those meetings, I think is extremely important. So I share Commissioner Cherico's sentiment in that regard.
Great, thank you. So Allison, I would assume you'll probably assign someone.
Yes,
Okay.
we'll do.
All right. Okay. In the spirit of Commissioner Cherico, is there any other new business? Anyone? Is there any other new business? Okay. Let's move to Citizens Forum. Citizens, any citizens here? Questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Citizens Forum. Seeing none, I will make a motion that we adjourn the Public Works meeting at 9:32 p.m. All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Oh, aye.
Okay.
Aye.